I've always been very interested in trains for some unknown reason, particularly steam engines, to the point where I even had model railways as a kid. But over the last few years I have been photographing steam engines around Ireland on film. The first shot I want to show you takes us to the Royal Canal, where the Christmas special train runs every December. The idea with this picture was to try and compose the train running along by the canal with a clear line of sight, which is quite difficult to do on the Dublin to Maynooth line where this train runs. It's often obscured and quite difficult to get a clean composition, but here, just north of the Phoenix Park, next to the Ashtown train station, there is an excellent vantage point. When the weather isn't absolutely atrocious, that is. Just had some heavy rain and my fucking tits are frozen clean off. Still waiting now. Should be done by very soon. As you can see, this image on Delta 100 actually turned out pretty decently. We've got some nice contrast here between the smoke and the sky, which had to be done in post. So I've had to crank this area up quite a bit with a mask in Lightroom to separate it a little bit from the background because it was all just grey and blending together on black and white. Nice leading line running all the way up to the front of the train, and then the train itself is positioned here, right kind of just right of centre near the edge of the rule of thirds. And it's in this nice clear spot here where there's no bushes in the way. It also turned out quite well, even considering the difficulties of photographing an engine in this way with a manual film camera, because you have to preset everything. You have to have your exposure perfectly preset, but you need to have the focus point picked, so you need to know exactly where you're going to place your plane of focus. You need to know your exact exposure. You also need to crank the shutter speed as high as you can get away with, because that will freeze the action of the train. If you don't, because it's a moving object, the train will blur. So that's overall how this image turned out. I think it turned out really nice with the nice leading lines down to the vanishing point, good plume of smoke separated from the sky with the train in the right spot. My next picture was actually a very special and historic run, as the engine that was pulling it, number 131, built in 1901, and it was withdrawn from service in 1963. This engine had been in various states of disrepair and preservation over the past 50 years, until 2014, when a project was started to rebuild the engine and have a run once again. And on the 1st of April 2023, it completed its first run from Belfast to Dublin in over 50 years. And if you're photographing a train that's going from Belfast to Dublin, there is only one place you can go: the Boyne Valley Viaduct in Drogheda. It's pulling hard, it's perfect. got it.
Stopped the steam there, didn't it? You could hear the engine change.
Yeah.
It stopped.
So looking at the D850 shot, we can see a kind of classic problem when photographing steam engines on wet days where the smoke kind of fades into the background, which I really didn't want, but I kind of didn't have an option because the weather is the way it is and you just have to kind of deal with it. I also cropped this image into a panorama because I think it looks a lot better. Along the bottom of the image there's a lot of derelict housing in the river and it doesn't look all that great, and the top of the image was just sky. And of course, with a train being a long skinny object that's going horizontally across your image, it kind of lends itself to being cropped to a panorama really easy. As for composition, this image here, I decided to have the train with a little bit of space in front of it. I didn't want it wedged too tightly to the end. However, I do wish I had waited a little bit longer to get the image more balanced. It might also be possible just to sort of crop a little bit more off the sky. So maybe if I do a crop like this, and that will give me a more balanced composition in the edit. Now while I was shooting this, I consciously shot this a little bit wider to give me some more cropping room, because if you don't give yourself cropping room in a situation like this, unless you get the image absolutely perfect, which with I was going to say unpredictable subject, but a train is literally a predictable subject. But given certain elements about how long the train is, how fast it's going, how it's going to look in the frame, because you have to preset all of this again, I wasn't exactly sure, so I zoomed out a little bit to give me a little bit more area to crop, and I think that came in quite handy. But overall this image turned out pretty decently, and with the digital version I'll definitely be able to make some adjustments to quote unquote save the shot. So the film version of this image is very, very similar, as I shot them both together on the same tripod. However, I had the same issue with the smoke and steam blending into the sky. I chose to, for the film version, not to crop out these weird little bits of treetops and wire out of the image. I felt that modifying the film version was somehow against the spirit of film, even though it isn't, and that makes no sense to say that, but I felt that way about it. We do have the train here just peeking past the bridge with a little bit of headspace in front of it, nice and even, sitting up on the bridge. Overall, I think this image looks pretty good, but if I'm going to make prints, I'm probably going to use the digital version for the increased flexibility. Okay, so tomorrow there is a steam engine event running in Dublin, the Marble City Run, where the Irish Preservation Society for Steam Engines will be doing a special train from Connolly to Kilkenny and back. Here we've got the Bronica ETR that I'm going to be using for this. And what I'm doing now is I'm just scouting Google Maps to try and figure out where to go and where to set up tomorrow morning. So I'm just scouting here. This is the side-on shot location, but it has the overhead lines. If we move along the track, the next good location is actually on the platforms of Drumcondra station. So if you stand kind of here, you can get a nice clean shot down the train line. The next option is this footbridge, and I never use this footbridge, but I've travelled under it so many times on the train. Okay, time to go scouting. Maybe. Here's the footbridge. Not a half bad vantage point though. At the station, it's going to come up on the right hand side. So it's coming towards us. That could look really good. I dropped my fucking mic down there. God fucking damn it. I've been down here for a goddamn hour trying to find my microphone and I dropped it. Anyway, I stood up, press record, and I hear a buzz of the thing recording, and it turns out it wasn't on the ground at all. It's right there in the tree. So all I have to do is just grab it. And there's my microphone. My God. Can't believe I found it, holy shit. In case you're wondering what happened, it was attached to the strap of my bag, and when I moved my bag, the microphone got knocked off by the shoulder pad and fell. Found it though. So exactly where that dart is going. Isn't really too many options. That bridge is super ugly in the way. Can we photograph it from this angle? Maybe. Right as it's pulling out of station, and then this way there's too much crap in the way. So I've just got back from scouting. I've loaded up some images and taking a look at the options. They're honestly all kind of terrible. So first off, we've got the ones down by Connolly and the canal, which is this location here on the Greenway. These don't really work, so we can see we've got my focal length and the location. None of them really work. Maybe this one here at this kind of angle, something with the, you could do maybe a panorama of this. I'll do a panorama crop, 3:1, with the train kind of over here on the left. You could also do a 150mm shot, more zoomed in, kind of it leaving the station here where it'll be pulling hard, but then again you've got all this catenary wires and kind of crap everywhere, and it's also kind of too far away, and there's no easy access. Like, there's no way I can get in here. This is railway property and I'm not dumb enough to go into there. Drumcondra station is probably the next best place that I looked at. So I have two shots here. So this is the 75 on platform 1, so the train will come up on the far tracks. This could be good. You could get a nice clear shot of the train right here and have the carriages trailing off into the picture. Could look really good. This might be a winner, but we can also take a look at the footbridge. So here's the view from the footbridge. That's the station there. The train will come up the far track here. And you can see the way we've got the train curving off nicely, but it'll be here. The train will be located sort of at this yellow line is where I'd fire the shutter, so I'd pre-focus it maybe here. So after all this scouting, I think I'm going to take the one at the station. We shall see tomorrow morning, shan't we? Alright, past. Train's due to leave now. Should hear it in a few moments. And I absolutely screwed this image up. I fired the shutter way too early. The train was actually supposed to be located here on the track, and I really wanted to have the train here, and that way I would have these annoying signs here in the background hidden behind the train. We also have the issue where the smoke and steam is being obscured by the clouds because they photograph to the same value. I really should have used a color filter with this, maybe a red filter, which would have helped, blank out the blue sections of the sky here and here. And that would have brought a bit of contrast into the sky, and then the smoke would have stood out better as a white cloud rather than all coming out as the same value. As for things like the exposure of the image, it turned out really well. I got very clear separation between the tones of the train and the tones underneath the platform here. The blackness along the tracks is very separated. The train isn't blending into anything. You can clearly see the delineation between the carriage and the train. So it's a really clear shot of the train itself. It's just that issue of it being in the wrong place. So here's the setup, a bit fucking ungainly. This clamp here's holding here, this is resting on the concrete, holding the weight. Got some triax. And of course, there's the view. There's a fox on the track. I got him sitting right on the tracks with the Bronica. That should look really cool actually. I'm really happy that happened. Well timed. Well timed. Ah, the smell off it is lovely.
Wow. Very good.
Brilliant. Actually is. Just puffing away. So this is the final image, and I think this one actually turned out probably the best apart from the canal image. And the reason it turned out really nicely is because it went exactly as planned. Luckily this engine had been turned around in Kilkenny, which is due to the track layout there, it actually enables them to do that. Because a big issue you get with photographing steam engines is that on the return journey, they tend to run tender first. So what they do is they run the engine outwards, like so, and then when it gets to the station, they uncouple the engine, drive it around to the back of the train, couple it on, and run the engine backwards. As for composition, this shot turned out absolutely spot on the way I wanted it. I focused exactly here, just in front of this bottle that was on the track, and that allows us to get a nice pin sharp front of the engine here. This whole section of track is uphill, which means the engine's going to be steaming and puffing hard in order to pull the train up the hill. But the big thing I wanted to incorporate into this is the bridge. And if you do it just right, you can actually get the smoke and steam kind of hanging out underneath the bridge as well. And that helps kind of accentuate the cloud as that smoke hasn't cleared yet. And then we've got a big plume of smoke rising up here. And luckily here, this was mostly smoke. It was very little steam in this. So with the extra smoke and the hard pulling of the train coming up the hill, created a much darker cloud, which allowed it to separate much more nicely from the sky area up here. So there's good tonal separation, and the image turned out really nice. As for the exposure, I got it pretty much bang on the way I wanted it, where I have all the detail saved, with the light coming in from the top right. I was able to get this embankment a little bit brighter and a bit above middle tone, and that allowed me to bring up the exposure on the right hand side, which was in shadow, which also helped bring up the exposure of the bridge and the engine itself, because I knew it was going to be in a little bit of shadow, so I needed to bring it up quite a bit. And you can clearly see the difference between the engine and the ground around it, where the engine is casting its shadow. This all didn't just turn to mush. I was able to get a fairly detailed, well exposed image overall. This is probably my second favorite image, with of course the canal image being my favorite so far. I hope you've enjoyed my little adventures to photograph some steam engines. And with that, I'll see you next time. Been a good dog?